Do you have what it takes to be a champion? We see someone who has arrived, if you will, and think, I could never do that. Well, today in studio, you are going to meet an Olympic athlete, a world champ medalist, a Crystal Globe winner, and she plays for Team Canada on the bobsled team. Today, you're going to find out what you have in common with an Olympic athlete that shows you you too can be a champion. Welcome to this segment of Contagious Courage with Vahen King. Right here in studio is Melissa Lotholz, Team Canada representative for Canadian bobsledding. How cool is that? Thank you so much for being here, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Not only because you represent Team Canada, but you're the real deal. And when I heard you speak, you talk about your journey to the podium to get these medals. In that moment, I was like, wow, she's my new inspiration and my new hero. What does it look like for you? Like, what time does your day start, first of all? And what does a day look like for you?
So I know some athletes train really early in the morning, but I really like my sleep, but I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
So I sleep in as much as possible.
Right. And so how long are your workouts?
My workouts are anywhere from like 2 hours to 5 hours.
What was I saying? Now she's your hero too, isn't she? Yes, I know. Wow. What is it like to be an Olympian, like on Team Canada? What does that feel like?
I would say like it's one of those things like day to day that reality doesn't sink in, but
Yes.
every so often like you'll get this chance or you get to step back and you're like, whoa, that's actually like really cool and such an honor. And sometimes it's like, it's really humbling that it's like I get to go around the world and compete for Canada. And then other times that same thing can be a bit of pressure.
Did you get on the team like the first time you tried out?
My journey to bobsled was a little unique, yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell us about that.
I started off in track and field. After high school, I did a bunch of sports growing up, and I had a U of A coach that came to me and said, hey, you should come run for the Pandas for the University of Alberta. And so I did. And in 2013, I went to a testing camp, and they were like, oh, this girl has like the raw kind of numbers that we want. And so a year later, I packed up everything I owned in Edmonton and I drove down to Calgary to train with and try out for the team. And that summer, it was a whirlwind. So I literally watched Canada compete in the Olympics. Kaylee Humphries and Heather Moyes won their second back-to-back Olympic title. And literally that December, not even 12 months later, I was competing with Kaylee Humphries, this two-time Olympic champion, in my first World Cup race.
Yeah, a little bit of pressure. Did you have this something inside you that like you just wanted to play for Canada one day? Was there a dream that went further back?
I would say yes and no.
Yeah.
There was a part, I think, like when I was a kid that like I was always super competitive, and I remember writing, I think I was like 12 or 14 in a journal, something about like I really wish that like one day I could go to the Olympics.
What?
Yeah. But like as I started growing up and getting older and just like reality sets in a little bit more, you're like, oh, like how would I get there? So when like a coach came and approached me and was like, do you want to run for a university track and field team? I was like, I can do that? Didn't know that was possible.
Wow.
But like it wasn't something I realized was actually in the cards for me. And then again, when I got invited to come out and do testing camps with Bobsled Canada, and they're like, yeah, we want you. I'm like,
wow.
What? I can do something like that? And so it was just this idea of like walking through open doors as they opened up for me and being like, yeah, I'll take that chance. Let's see what happens.
Wow. So in your walk to the podium, as we say, what has anchored you through it all? Like, what has your faith journey been like through this whole situation?
I think there's nothing quite like throwing somebody into the fire to see what you're made of.
Okay, yeah.
I would say my faith for sure has been an anchor throughout it. So a lot of times it was a lens to find perspective. It was a lens to find hope. It was a lens to ground me. So when you're like out there like pushing yourself and you're putting your heart on the line and you're putting your dreams on the line, you're like, okay, like if I fall, who catches me? And so being able to just remind yourself of those truths. They can be such an anchor and such an encouragement, and it provides this space and platform to just be able to be like, yeah, I am going to go for it.
Yeah.
Because if I win, that's awesome. And if I fail, that's okay.
Wow. Has there been a situation where you found yourself in that, okay, this is where Melissa comes to the end of herself, and I'm like, now Jesus, it's all you, because you're training. Like, how do you know when Melissa stops and Jesus takes over?
It's a struggle. I think it's interesting. I think I would say I'm a very passionate person in general. So you take this passion of faith and that relationship with God, but then I also have this passion of sport. But what do you do when those two things kind of like collide or butt heads? And what do you do when sport all of a sudden isn't going the way you wanted it to? And so there was some really hard times, whether it was just like I wasn't getting better as fast as I wanted to, or whether it was like this very real moment where it's like, no, this dream is like this close, I can taste it, but it still might get pulled out from underneath me. And moving into the Olympic season, I was still ranked as a number 1 brakeman. And I started the Olympic season off in that sled, and we had an amazing go. We got gold, silver, gold, 4th. But in that 4th race where we got 4th, my body got to this space where it just wasn't quite cooperating. And we weren't sure what was going on, but I got to the line and I started cramping, and I mean, this sport's hundredths of a second, so this sport doesn't really wait for anybody. And in this whole time and space, you're kind of like, okay, God, like, you've carried me through, and you've opened so many doors, and you've blessed me again and again and again, and I've chosen to trust you, and every single time you've given it back to me. And like, that was, I think, the hardest question, because it's like, okay, we're 50 days out from the games. You are the number 1 girl to beat. Do you trust me here?
Oh, wow.
What does it look like to walk in this space now, like daily, like day after day, where it's like, okay, what does it look like to move forward in faith in this situation? Faith in God, faith in myself, faith in my dreams. What does it look like to not lose hope? Right. You're 50 days out from the Olympics. The dream is right there. The finish line is so close. Yes. And
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very powerful, and a lot of pressure, and just to be able to find the strength to be able to come to God and say, like, to hear from him and say, do you trust me in this moment? What would you say to someone who is struggling with a dream that they have that they feel is out of reach? They just don't feel enough.
I think 2 different things. I actually wrestled with, what does it look like to be a champion? What does it look like to not simply win medals, but to be a champion? Because I think those are 2 different things. Because I think you can be a champion in terms of character and how you carry yourself, and not win medals. And you can also win medals and not be a champion in terms of character. I had to focus on, okay, what can I do today? Because I can't control what happens tomorrow, but I can control how I think today. I can control what I do today. And I spent a lot of time journaling.
Yes, it's good.
Yeah. But it's just that one step at a time. What do I choose in this moment? What do I choose in this moment? And it's sometimes a daily choice, sometimes it's an hourly choice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Melissa, like, I just want to thank you so much for being here. You definitely are the true example of a champion. You are and will continue to inspire, and we'll be watching you. And if you want to watch, follow, Melissa, please follow her on all of her social media channels. All of the information of how to connect with Melissa will be in the description of this video. But today, I pray that as you heard Melissa's story of determination and struggle, that you've been encouraged to also see that you too can be a champion. Not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to you and your name goes all the honor and glory for your unfailing love and faithfulness. Bye for now. So I'll try not to be doing this, right? You scared me because I picked up this and it felt like it just like smashed into the table. I always wanted to do that. That's funny. That might make it to the bloopers. I'm just kidding.
I love your laugh. It's so contagious.